next thing we're going to look at is PACT projects. But before I show you how the tool handles projects and what it really means to be a project, I want to give you a recap of what we mean by that term. Basically, think of a project as a system. And at the system level hierarchy in PACT, you care about the system requirements, a roll-up of the problem reports from all of the lower level items that comprise the system, a review of the status, basically review status for each of the items that comprise the system, and you might archive the system itself. So first we're going to look at the PACT projects, and then we're going to take a dive down and look at the items, the hardware and software items that comprise those projects. You might, for example, have a hardware item that's a circuit board and one or more FPGAs that sit upon that circuit board. You might have software that runs on a PIC controller, for example, or one of the FPGAs. So all of these things, these hardware and software items, can link together, and their linkage together and upward connects them to the system of which they are a part. At the item level, we're going to be concerned with the requirements and conceptual design, if that's a hardware item, or the high level and low level requirements if it's a software item. If it's a model-based design process, then you're going to have model files that help describe those items. You'll have source code, either hardware design code or software code. You'll have test cases and test procedures that run those test cases. You'll have problem reports associated with the items. You can generate requirements traceability matrices, and you'll have documents that may be shared or they may be individual to the specific items, and you'll have reviews that are tied to the individual items. So this is the hierarchy and PACT that we're going to see as we continue through these demos. Now let's jump back to our projects. To see the projects for an organization, click View All Projects. In our demo project, we actually have two projects. The one I'm going to be primarily showing you and talking through is the Acme Company Avionics Passenger Counter. So that is our system, it's our project. And beneath that, we will have hardware and software items. We'll have software requirements associated with it. We'll have problem reports. We'll have the status of all the reviews of the items that comprise the system. And we'll have archives. Before I dive into those, let me show you a little bit about the user interface that we're looking at right now. We're in a list, a projects list. Within PACT, there's all kinds of lists. So in a list page, each individual row will be a list item. In this case, it's a project list. You'll have columns that are different fields, such as identifier, name, navigation. So in this case, those are the fields that we're seeing for each of the listed projects. Those fields will change depending on what kind of object you're seeing in the list. But you will always have this ability up here to do filtering or searching by certain fields. For example, in this case, if there was a huge project list in your organization and you just wanted to skip to the project you cared about, and you knew that you had a project called APC, Avionics Passenger Counter, you could quickly filter and go to that item. So in any project list page, you'll have the same kind of filtering capability. The other thing that you'll always see in every list item, and what we're seeing here for the projects, is some action buttons. In this case, we can show information about our project, we can edit information for the project, and we can delete. Now these action buttons might vary depending on the person's role in the project, and I will explain that further in just a moment here. In fact, let's click right now on Show, and what we'll be doing when we click on this is showing information for our Avionics Passenger Counter project. Here we can see the identifier, which is APC. It's just a shortcut for what we want to call our project. We have a number of different project managers for this project. We have configuration managers, quality assurance members, other general team members, a certification representative. So these are the roles of the people involved, and different people like project managers have a lot more authority in terms of the project. They might be able to create and delete information, whereas general team members might have a very limited ability to do that. They would, depending on the role each member has access to and the credentials that allow them to manipulate the data that is associated with that role. So this is information that's being shown to us because we clicked on the show button. The navigation items we saw on the list are presented here as well. These are the same items that we saw on that previous page. This edit button here is the same one that was basically gives us the same abilities as what we saw in the action buttons on the list page. So if we want to edit some of this data here, we can certainly do so by clicking the edit button. We can change up maybe who our configuration managers are. Maybe it's just one of these people and not the whole lot of them. Let's see what else we might want to do. Let's maybe add a few team members. It's going to add John Public, basically everybody on here. So this is what we're doing. We're setting up the team members and their roles, people who have access and what type of access to the project, and we can now update our project. The edit button, what you just saw there, is basically the same. It's the same kinds of fields as if you were going to create your own new project. So you can create a new project here. You can also create a new project from the All Projects button, which puts us back to the project list itself. So we could create a new project. Again, it's the same fields you saw when I hit edit. You create an identifier. You give it a name. And you set up the prefixes for the pertinent types of objects. In this case, the pertinent types of objects for a project are system requirements. So this would be the prefix given to each of the system requirements that you're going to be adding. And you would choose who your project manager or managers are, who your configuration managers are, quality assurance members, team members, certification representatives, and so on. So this is how you set up a new project. But in this case, we have two projects. I've shown you what some of the actions are, the show, edit, and we certainly don't want to delete, and you probably in general wouldn't have the authority to do that anyway, unless you were perhaps the project manager or the administrator. Let's see here. In the next demo, I'm going to be showing you more about system requirements. Then we'll be looking at problem reports, review status, and the rest of these. But for now, that's it about projects and how PACT creates, edits, and manages them.